Hare Krishna.
Chandra Didi, she can't hear
From
us.
Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 2, text 22. This is a famous verse, very well-known verse, very quoted a lot. Vasamsi jirnani yathabhihaya navani granati naro aparani tatha sharirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So yesterday we were reading how the soul is eternal, it cannot be killed, cannot be it cannot be uh, destroyed, it cannot be slain, nothing. It's eternal, primeval, always existing. So that it's going to continue to exist even though the body dies. So now it's given up more in detail in this, that as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So we are also going to give up this material body that we are in at one time or the other. We don't know exactly when we were going to give it up, but we have to give it up for sure, because that's the nature of this material world. Why do we have to give it up? Because this is not our true position. It's not our true position. We are thinking, yes, I'm the body, but that thinking that's what is Maya. So change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of the soul, but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart, have to accept continuous changes of body, which appear from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in a previous verse, 2.13. So, 2.13, we heard that how the body keeps changing from youth to boyhood to old age. And then at death, we take up another body. Now we can see that, oh, this body is changing. So that shows the soul is there. We can keep a dead body for however long, but it won't change. It will just decompose. It's not going to grow. It's not going to become, it's not going to produce any byproducts. No, what is going to happen is just going to decompose. Why? Because the soul is not there anymore in the body. That's the reason. So we can see actually that it's the soul that is important, not the body. The same body right now that we are so careful about it, we work day and night to make this body comfortable and as comfortable as possible. The same body, we have to give it up and it's going to decompose one day. So that should make us realize that, oh, then I'm not the body. I have to give up this body and I have going to take up another body. So where will I go? Where am I going to go after I give up this body? That is a question that we need to ask. What's going to happen to me after I leave the body? And then the choice is ours. We want to continue to stay in the material world and get a material body, or we want to put an end to this samsara, birth and death. We want to get out of this cycle and go back home. To get us, we can do that. We can create a spiritual body by whatever we are doing now. Whatever we are doing, by hearing and chanting about Krishna, by engaging in the process of bhakti yoga, we can go back to Godhead. We can have a spiritual body. We can put an end to birth and death. So the transference of the atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of the super soul. So what happens is, when we leave this body, then the soul, along with the super soul, goes to another body. And then at that moment, what's going along with us is our subtle body, our mind, intelligence, and false ego continues to go with us in different bodies till the time we give up the desire to not be here in the material world. Then, and we start engaging in bhakti yoga. Then when we are doing that and become qualified, then we do not need the subtle body anymore. Then the subtle bodies become spiritual. And like that, we go back to the spiritual world. Then we have a spiritual, then our ego is the true ego, that I'm a soul, eternal part and parcel of Krishna. Then the mind is purified. It is the only thing it wants to do is have the relationship with Krishna. So the super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mundaka Upanishad, as well as the Shveteshvara Upanishad, compare the soul and the super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the tree, and the other bird, Krishna, is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of the material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird, and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is the servant. So there are so many Upanishads which try to explain to us the position of the soul and the super soul, the soul, the Jivatma and the Paramatma, that both the soul and the super soul are sitting inside this, in our body right now. And then we, the soul, what I am doing, I want to do some activity, and then I want to enjoy that activity. I want to enjoy the result of whatever I'm doing. But some of the results are sweet and some are bitter. That's why we are experiencing happiness and distress. And what is the other bird doing? The other soul, the super soul, Paramatma, he's just witnessing my activities. He's witnessing what's my desire. And then based on my desire, through the facility of the material energy, my desires are being fulfilled. That is the position. So the super soul is he is providing everything for us. That's how we are being maintained here. We are only desiring, only our desire. And the super soul is facilitating our desire through this material energy. So forgetfulness of this relationship by the atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another, or from one body to another. So we think I'm the one who's doing everything. I'm the one. I have the potency, the power to do things, to change things, to whatever we are doing. But everything is coming from Krishna, actually. And because we have forgotten that, we are changing from one body to another, because our desires are what's keeping us here in this material world, and giving us one body after another, different bodies, all based on our desire. Like it is said that human beings are not supposed to eat meat. That's not what we are supposed to eat, based on even the body constitution. But if somebody likes to eat meat, then they need to have a body which is suitable to eat meat. So in the next birth, they might get the body of a lion or a tiger, which is suitable to eat meat. So that is what. So by our desire, we are creating our next body. And that's how the whole cycle is moving. So the Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body. But as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender unto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. So right now, even though Krishna is in our heart, we don't want to look towards him. We are just busy. Oh, I'm going to do this. I will be happy. I want to do that. I'll be happy. But in that search for happiness, sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sad. And we are like in a mad rush, I'm going to do this. I'll be happy. I'm going to do that. I'll be happy. But what do we actually have to do to be happy? We have to turn towards Krishna. He's there in our heart. He's the closest to us. He's the closest to us. We just have to surrender unto him. Just start looking towards him. And the surrender begins. How does the surrender begins? By chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. By chanting Hare Krishna mantra, our process of surrender begins. And then once we are fully surrendered, what happens? Become free from all lamentations. We have this lamentation, we have fear, we have anxiety. But to the degree we surrender to Krishna, to that degree we get free from all these emotions. Then we are always blissful and happy. Both the Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.2 and the Shveteshvatara Upanishad 4.7 confirm this. Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nishchaya shochati muhyamanaha justam yada pashyati anyam isham asya mahimanam iti vitashokaha. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruits of the tree. But if in some way or other he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend Krishna and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. So Arjuna has taken up our position. We are in lamentation, we are morose. And then what we have to do, we continue hearing from Bhagavad Gita, understand the Bhagavad Gita. The more we understand, the more we hear, then to that degree we will be free from lamentation. Free from lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight, so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to a higher status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. So Krishna is saying that anyway, the grandfather, Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya, they are old. And now they are here on the battlefield, which is a religious war. It's a dharma, what's that? And the place is also a religious place, Dharma Kshetre. It's a religious war happening in a religious place, in a holy, pious place. And so if they are killed, then they are going to get very good benefit, because they are getting the result of their past misdeeds, that they continued to support Duryodhana. In spite of what Duryodhana was doing, they continued to support him, and they didn't speak up when Draupadi was being humiliated in front of anyone. So it will give them an opportunity to give up those bad reactions and in fact be promoted to a higher status of life. So the main point is that we need to turn our face towards Krishna. He's right next to us. The more we hear his name, the more we chant his name, the more we hear and read from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, to that degree we can revive our relationship with Krishna, who's waiting. He's waiting for us to turn toward him, to establish a relationship with us. He's waiting. It's only depends on us. I hope this is okay. And then we can stop here for today. And if there's any clarification, maybe you can put on the chat or any comment. If no, then we stop here. So, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for joining in today morning.